So today, my big goal is to really show you guys how to use TikTok Shop creator content, right? Being at the core of everything that you're doing in D2C, in e-commerce, on Amazon, on all other channels, and really how to actually leverage the TikTok Shop content and show you that TikTok Shop is really the biggest awareness channel that you can have. I'm going to go step by step through exactly how you unlock the full funnel brand growth. Because I really think that it's at the core. I will tell you at Social Commerce Club right now, we're having conversations that we're potentially not even going to be working with brands unless we're able to work completely full funnel with them, because all of it works together so well, right? And we really think that TikTok Shop is at the center of all of it. And so I want to go through that with you guys step by step. There's going to be time for questions at the end after, if you guys are watching this on YouTube or somewhere else as well. I will be answering questions at the end. Make sure to throw your questions in to the comments there, and we are going to get into this today. Awesome. So I really, truly believe that the future is creator powered, right? I really believe that everything is changing from, we had all of our influencer kind of marketing in the past sort of like 5 to 7 years, I'd say, where influencer marketing really took off. And there was this time where there was this arbitrage in influencers. And what always happens with an arbitrage is that you get really, really good pricing on whatever that arbitrage is for a time. But what ends up happening is that scale ends up flipping to the other side. And so we no longer have that arbitrage on what was good at one point. And I don't remember influencer pricing being good since about 2018-ish, somewhere in there, right? And then influencer marketing became incredibly complex, incredibly expensive, right? When we were trying to just reach out to influencers. That is why TikTok Shop and creator-led content really has changed everything. So let me explain exactly what I mean, because I don't think that a lot of brands actually understand the impact that this has full funnel. And I think that I haven't done a really good job of actually pushing this out into the world and letting people know that if you are working with somebody on TikTok Shop, that should be the core of the strategy on everything. And so I'm going to explain some of these here and how there's this full funnel impact, right? That drives performance across all of your marketing stages, and that the halo is not just a halo as far as your actual sales onto Amazon or your sales onto D2C, though there is that big halo, that it's actually this full funnel halo. And I want to explain exactly how we do that in a step-by-step sort of way. I want to talk about the creative engine, right, that generates authentic, high-converting content across all of your channels. And then this omni-channel fuel, right? So, powering growth beyond TikTok itself. I love TikTok Shop. I love the checkout that happens on TikTok Shop, but I truly believe that it goes well beyond there and that customers will check out on the channel that they prefer, right? And so will customers continue to check out a TikTok Shop? Absolutely. It is going to be a massive channel. And it will continue to grow at a rate that is already much higher than Amazon itself. But what I'm trying to say here is that customers will continue to check out where they feel comfortable. We've seen the Shop app be a place where a lot of customers are checking out. So if you're ignoring your Shopify store and you're ignoring the Shop app itself, which will continue to grow and start to eat into Amazon, and if you're not leveraging some of this content, you are definitely missing out. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about when it comes to this full funnel impact, the creative engine, and then the omni-channel fuel that goes beyond TikTok. So let's get into it here. So let's talk about number one, TikTok Shop content and this full funnel fuel. Because I think that this is really, really important. And I want you guys to sort of lean in and understand why this is so important before we actually get into the how of how this is so important. So number one, at top of funnel, this is where the seeding is happening, right? And this is where you're actually able to, so previously, right, when we had influencer marketing, we would reach out to them, we would negotiate a deal with them. And at the end of the day, the deals were just never good, right? And you were always trying to get an arbitrage on either side, right? The influencers always trying to get as much as they can. There was all these courses out there that taught them how to negotiate. And you'd see these negotiating tactics and you're like, oh man, this is terrible. Why are we doing this? And these deals would generally be bad. And then every once in a while you'd get an influencer that would take off. It was usually like maybe 1 in 10, right? And then we had influencer seeding on the other side, right? Where we're trying to get products out to people and trying to get them to post and give them some sort of incentive. And I'll tell you, Refunnel, Autif at Refunnel has done a really good job of incentivizing gifting, but still it's nothing like the incentives that are on TikTok Shop. So the reason why, again, that it's so great is that you're sending out these samples to creators, right? You're sending out these samples to creators. Of the 100 samples that you're sending out, probably 20 of them are going to be really decent content, right? If we're using the 80-20 rule, probably 20% of that content. So 4 out of 100 are going to have the potential to go viral, right? They're going to have some sort of virality baked into them. Now, those 4 pieces of content and those 4 creators are the ones that I want us to lean in on, right? From a top of funnel perspective. Now, sometimes the TikTok Shop algorithm or the TikTok algorithm just does not pick up content in the way that we want it to, because as we know, TikTok is fickle, and TikTok often will change their algorithm around to try to help out whatever business case they're doing. So for instance, I was talking about brand lives before and how they were pushing brand lives. We know that if you are going to go on TikTok and you're going to try to, do what the TikTok algorithm wants you to do, you're going to do very well, right? And so brand lives were doing really well for a time. Now, Autif, before from Refunnel, was talking about how brand-owned content is going to be pushed in Q3. I 100% believe that is the case. And so what we want to do is figure out, how do we leverage affiliates in brand-owned content? And that is exactly what we're talking about today, which is why I'm super, super excited. Taking all of that top of funnel content, taking those top 4 creators, right? Number 1, driving ads with them onto TikTok Shop. And so we've talked about all of that before, right? And I think that's really at the core of what we do at Social Commerce Club and what I'm talking about all the time online, is taking that content, the unicorn content, right? And putting ad spend behind it in the form of VSAs, video shopping ads. Now, I do not recommend at this point to go into GMV Max. GMV Max, what we're seeing is, it can be an incredible tool for bigger brands. And once you have a lot of data, but a lot of times it just ends up being cannibalistic. And that's what happens with a lot of these AI powered algorithms. They end up being cannibalistic of sales that you would have gotten anyways. Whereas VSAs tend to get to a newer audience. Now, I'm not saying that all the time for GMV Max. We use GMV Max at Social Commerce Club with huge brands when we need to. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't always work out. So that's a really good top of funnel strategy. Okay. Now, let's talk about some of these other. We're going to skip the mid funnel and we're going to get into the bottom of funnel, because I think that this is where things are really, really interesting. Not everyone in today's day and age or ever is going to check out on TikTok Shop. So if you're only concerned about TikTok Shop, I really think that you're missing a massive part of the market. Now, that part of the market is Amazon. It's your Shopify store. It's other places that people can check out. But if you ignore your .com, right, you are missing out on a massive amount of sales. And so this is what we're going to talk about today, is how we take all of this content, right? How we take it all and we actually repurpose that content into other places. And I think that's where things get really, really interesting, and where you can really, truly build a brand off of creator content. But what I'm trying to say is that it all comes from creator content, right? That is where all of your marketing efforts are coming off of, is the content that you're getting there. Now, I'm going to talk about it in another slide here. And let me tell you exactly why. And I think that this is probably the most important part of the slide. So we all know about, like, previously some of the trends. The TikTok made me buy it. The trend, has obviously been massive. One of the big issues, if you guys have been in direct to consumer for any amount of time, is that it was really, really difficult to drive ads from TikTok over to D2C and get the attribution, which is why attribution for me is oftentimes a 4-letter word, because I just don't believe in attribution all the time. We know when we would ask post-purchase surveys that 40% of people were saying that they found out about us from TikTok. And we're like, okay, so they found out about us from TikTok, but attribution told us basically 0. Which is why I just don't always believe the attribution headlines that are out there. So obviously this is why I love TikTok content and TikTok shop content specifically. So number one, this is why creators need to be at the heart of your brand. You need to think about them like this. Number one, they are trusted voices, right? So your customers already are trusting their recommendations. And it's not just that, they know how to talk about your product, right? These creators, because they're incentivized as an affiliate and they only get paid when you make a sale, they are incentivized to become a trusted voice. Now, they're never going to be an influencer, right? We at Social Commerce Club, we have one affiliate or one creator who has less than 10,000 followers, and last month drove 200 GMV, right? This is not an influencer, right? This is a creator who knows how to sell a product, right? And so they become the trusted voice in their area. Number two, they understand the trends. The reason why they understand the trends and what drives the trends, and why, again, you have to have creators at the center of all of it. And I just want to make sure you guys understand, like, I'm talking about using all of this content across your funnel completely, right? That you need to have a unified strategy of this kind of content, because this is the kind of content that actually sells in 2025 and beyond. When I look at, I was listening to this long, like 2.5 hour debate on AI. They were talking about, really, at the end of the day, what is going to be the currency of 2025 and beyond. And it's going to be authenticity. And that's one thing that you can argue it whether you like it or not, but the creators really try to be authentic. They try to do whatever they can to actually sell. And so they understand what drives these trends, right? And then using those videos and using all of the content that you're getting from them in a flywheel across all of your channels. That's the really, really important part about all of this, and why I'm obsessed with this right now, specifically at Social Commerce Club. Like, we're making a really, really big push to own the entire funnel, because the brands that we work with, when we own the entire funnel, are doing really, really well, because it's not just checking out on TikTok Shop, right? It's the entire brand. It's Amazon. It's D2C. It's across all of these channels, which is why I'm really, really obsessed with this. Awesome. So let's talk about this, because I think that this is the base foundation of what to do, right? So the base foundation is to build a creator community. So I really, truly believe that every single brand in 2025 and beyond needs to build their own creator community, right? And you can only do this by seeding, right? You can only do this by getting your product out there to as many people, to 100, 200 people. Remember, you're probably, of the 100, if we just do the math, you're probably going to find 4 that are going to be great, right, to work with at first. So if you throw out 200, you're probably going to find 8, right? And the more that you seed on TikTok Shop specifically, and I'm talking about TikTok Shop, like this is the perfect place to do all of your seeding efforts, is on TikTok Shop, right? It's got the most amount of creators that are willing to make videos for your product, that are incentivized to make those videos great, right? So I recommend using a tool like Reacher out there, or you can use any of the TikTok Shop bot tools that are out there. There's Yuka as well. There's Uptick is another one of them out there. I love Reacher. I advise those guys, and I think that they're doing a great job. That is where you're going to find these perfect matches, right? Is putting as much content out there as you can. And the 80-20 of where you need to be spending your time is here, right? The 80-20 is actually looking at the content and seeing which content is doing well, that you can then start to push out to more and more of your different channels, right? And finding that content. There's something really interesting here. One of the brands at Social Commerce Club that works with us across all channels, 90% of the spend on YouTube and on Meta comes from TikTok Shop content that performed really well there. Now, this particular brand actually doesn't drive a ton of revenue on TikTok Shop, but all of their other channels have been lifted because of this content. So Amazon is crushing, their retail is crushing, D2C is crushing. All of this, I think when they first came, they had like a 0.5 return on ad spend on on their D2C channel on Meta. And that has since something like quadrupled, right? And it's all because of this type of content that's pushing across the entire funnel. And so what we've done, right, is built deeper relationships with each person that is actually in the community that is pushing GMV. Now, you're probably asking yourself, okay, well, what if we're not pushing a ton of GMV yet? And that could be, right? There are some products that may not work on TikTok Shop. That does actually not, that does not mean that you should not be on TikTok Shop, right? Just because you're not pushing a ton of GMV on TikTok Shop does not mean that, right? I actually believe that this is the way that you're going to find creators, even if you can't push a ton of GMV. Now, do I still believe in the 4-step process that I've talked about? Absolutely, right? And you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go back and watch that. There's like a almost hour-long video on that 4-phase approach of what to do on TikTok Shop. But at the end of the day, it's really about building this creator community. And so you want to have really great incentives for your creator community and for people to be in your community. And so one of those is retainers, right? As much as, I think that that's also a 4-letter word sometimes in our community. People respond to those kinds of incentives. So if you know that they do great work and trying to get videos, it's actually interesting. Chris, who's on this call, him and I were chatting about this before, of trying to actually incentivize with retainers, other brands, other creators out there who are willing to do, 15 to 30 videos for you. This is also a really, really great way, and something we were talking about before. This is a really great way to actually get brand owned content, right, on your page itself. Let me tell you guys an interesting strategy here as well. If you've never heard this one before, I like to call this the Tabs Chocolate Method. And the Tabs Chocolate Method is really interesting because what you're actually doing is you're building a bunch of pages that all point towards either your shop, towards your Amazon, towards whatever you want, but they're all pointing towards your brand. And so when you find a really, really great creator, getting them to create a whole new page that only points towards your brand is a really interesting idea. It's something that's been tried quite a lot. It was a bit of like arbitrage for a time. Right now, I still think that it's worth doing, but I also think that it does not matter how many videos you post per day on your channel, on your page. It does not matter, because that's not how the algorithm works, right? Like, you get kind of punished on Instagram, right, if you're posting too many things. On TikTok, you don't. You can put 8 to 10 videos a day and just try them out and see what they hit in the algorithm. All that TikTok cares about is this video keeping people interested in watching? So that's why I recommend posting as many as you can. But you can't do that, right, unless, number one, you're a great content creator. I remember I chatted with somebody recently who, he is a top high GMV creator, and he decided to create a brand. And I was like, dude, you just need to be doing all of your own content and then, fill it in with some other affiliates. But his content was so good, and he was pushing the majority of his revenue through his content, right? And so what you need to do is figure out what of those, or who of those people that you need to get talking about your product, right? And start to incentivize them within your community and automate what you can. Now, I have automate everything here, and I want to give a bit of a disclaimer on that. I don't think that automating everything at all times is a great idea. Now, the reason why is because relationship cannot be automated, right? Relationship is one of the most important things that you have with people, and showing up as an actual human being on these channels and with your community is really, really important. But all of the other stuff, the admin of it, all of that, the incentives, the gifting, again, Atif, I'm glad that you're on this call as well, because they have a really, really great gifting portal, a contest portal within Refunnel as well that you can use. So this is not a big Refunnel. This is not a paid promotion by Refunnel, but they've got a really, really great way that you guys can launch contests within here, right? So the more affiliates that you can get into either your Discord or your WhatsApp or wherever you want to house these people, the better, right? And the more that you can make this a lively place where people actually want to interact, and where you can build real community. I'll go into, and I'll create a video on what it's like to actually build a brand community at some point that's outside of your creator community. We've done that at the brands that we own. We had one group of people, it was about 7,000 people, a brand that I own called Keep Nature Wild, where people went and picked up trash on trails. We ended up picking up, I believe by the time we sold the company, it was like 1.4 million pounds of trash. We looked, it was like football fields upon football fields of trash. And it was all from building a community. No one got paid. Everyone just went out and cleaned up actual trash on trails and made the world a better place. And so that was one kind of community that we built. I'll get into that at some point again. If you guys want to hear more about that, I can actually talk about that on one of these calls at some point as well. So building your creator community is a lot of work, right, for your brand, which is again why, at our agency we've done that. We knew that was the golden goose, right? Was building incredible creator communities around brands is the golden goose, but it takes time, and it takes way more time and effort than you'd think. And for us too, like we realized, we're like, oh my gosh, this is taking, I really truly believe as we've gone on and realized what it takes to take a brand from 0 to 100K a month, that it takes about 3x the person power that we actually thought it would take, right? And so remember that this is quite a muscle that you need to build as a brand, which is why I'm obsessed with the entire funnel, right? And I'm obsessed with being able to use this content across funnel. So and we're not done yet, but I just want to say my biggest takeaway here that I want you guys to get is that if you are working on TikTok Shop, it has to be integrated with the entire whole, right? It has to be integrated. The person who is running your TikTok Shop, or the agency that's running your TikTok Shop, needs to be integrated across all of your paid channels. So if you're driving traffic, external traffic to your Shopify store, that needs to be completely unified, right? And this message of unity and unification of all of these channels is what I'm going to be obsessed with for the next 6 months, because I really truly believe that the brands that survive and thrive in this next era are going to unify all of their creator community messaging all together here. And again, this is one of the things that I'm super obsessed with right now. All right, again, testing on TikTok Shop first. Sorry, can we all just laugh at this one image here? This one AI image, the creator Malpeel Connect. It's obviously still using Dolly to create these images, but all the rest of the image I love. Let me just take a quick sip of coffee here. So testing on TikTok Shop first. Again, we talked about this before. Testing with VSAs, testing with organic content, right? Using Spark ads at all times, right? To be able to boost, if some of this content has a really high click-through rate, and I've seen this with a lot of content, it'll get like, say 1,000 views, but it has a like 8 to 10% click-through rate. If you're seeing content like that, that is the kind of content that you need to take and put budget behind, right? If it has that high of a click-through rate, but it's not yet getting into the algorithm, you know that that's the kind of content that's driving interest in the actual product. And so I would then put money behind that specific video. And lo and behold, most times it will be the same kind of creator that will create more and more videos like that you can then Spark at. So that's something really interesting. I want to talk about performance tracking here for a sec, because I think that this is an interesting conversation that I want to have and let you guys know about here. So a lot of times there will be an issue with the product page itself, right? And there's people that are, they have a hard time actually converting on their TikTok Shop. They'll notice that Amazon sales are going up. They'll notice that they're profitable everywhere else. They'll notice that, like, lo and behold, Facebook ads are performing better. YouTube's performing better. Google, of course, is performing better. If you're running a PMAX campaign, it's performing better because, of course, it's slopping up all of that goodness that you've created on TikTok Shop and from all of your seeding efforts, right? And everything else is getting better. The problem is sometimes your actual TikTok Shop page is not converting. And so what's really interesting about this is identifying which of these creatives over-index on things like click-through rate, right? Like CPMs, right? If you have a lower CPM, that means, right, cost per 1,000 impressions. If you have a lower CPM, what that means is that the algorithm loves your content, right? And so if the algorithm loves your content, because it's putting it out there to more people, because it's keeping people on the platform longer, it will reward you with a lower CPM in your ads. Now, some of the other things that I don't have on here that I want to make sure that we're all aware of are click-through rate is a huge one, right? If we see a really high click-through rate on organic, I truly believe that is one of the signs of a great piece of content that we need to put more money behind, or we potentially need to talk to that creator to get rights to use it all across the channel. Now, there's some really interesting things here, and I believe that I bring this up on another. Oh, just one sec, guys. I believe that I bring this up on Here. Yes. Okay. So let me talk about different ways that you can repurpose this, because I think that this is where things get super, super interesting and where we're obsessed with this at Social Commerce Club. And this is some of the stuff that I'm building out right now, because I really, truly believe that brands need to understand how to use this content, right? And then leverage it across the channels, but also at the same time, incentivize creators to keep creating on TikTok Shop, even if you're not getting a ton of sales on TikTok Shop, right? We had a brand that worked with us last year, and they close to quadrupled their revenue across their entire business while only doing about 30K a month on TikTok Shop itself, right? Just remember that, right? That is what this halo looks like and what all of this content ends up doing for your brand, because there are so many people on TikTok watching this content who go and buy somewhere else, right? Which, again, I'm just going to say it one more time. You need to unify everything. You cannot have silos of your D2C over here, your Amazon over here. Now, I think that it's okay to have, people who are working on your Amazon listing and all the technical sort of stuff over there, but your Amazon advertising itself, and this is, again, why at Social Commerce Club, we do all of this. The reason why we do all of this and why we're so obsessed is because I really, truly believe that it all works together in this beautiful halo. So let's talk about repurposing winners across platforms. Instead of adding TikTok videos to A+ or any of that kind of stuff, which I think is cool, I think that's great, being able to use that stuff. But what I actually like even more is using that content to drive traffic over to places like Amazon, right? So I love testing bringing traffic over from TikTok over to Amazon, from Meta over to Amazon, right? I think that that's really interesting, especially if you are an Amazon first brand. Now, you guys all know I grew up in D2C. All the brands that we owned over the years were really D2C focused. And so I think that it's really, really important to know that on Shopify, there's some really interesting things that you can do. And I want to walk you through an interesting strategy that we're working through right now at Social Commerce Club with a few brands, and going to be taking on more when it comes to this. And I like to call this TikTok Shop for D2C. And so the idea is that you're going to work with some of these creators to work across your entire funnel. And so you find these creators that are doing really well on TikTok Shop. You take them and you move them over to other channels, right? Using paid ads. And so what you're going to do is actually negotiate a percentage that you're going to pay them on all of the content that drives the traffic. And so you can use affiliate codes and affiliate links. Now, advanced player mode with this is then creating co-branded landing pages for them across other channels, right? On your Shopify store, and driving traffic from multiple other channels. So this is YouTube, this is Snapchat, this is Meta, all of these big ones that are driving a ton of video traffic over, driving them to a co-branded landing page. So that would be the creator X the brand. Creator Commerce does a great job of doing this. So if you guys want to go look into them, they do a really, really good job of doing that. And then integrating their UGC content and creator reviews into those creator landing pages is a really, really great way that you can do this. So that's really what I have to say about all of that when it comes to integrating and unifying your creators across all of your platforms. Let me just see if I've got one more here. Yeah. So again, this is really where, let me just dive a tiny little bit more into this, because I think that this is really interesting on the D2C side. So when I think about the kinds of customers that I want at the end of the day, to me, D2C needs to be at the forefront, because we actually own all of their data, right? So we get their email address, we get their SMS, we get all of that, and they're buying from us. We want them to buy from us at least once somewhere there on D2C, or be able to capture that. And it's very, very difficult to capture that if they don't come over to D2C at some point, which is why I really, truly believe in this unified funnel. And so creating these custom creator pages is really where you can thrive. Now, a couple of tips when creating these custom creator pages is, don't just do it for everyone, right? I think that's a really big mistake. I would, again, take the 80-20 of the 80-20 of people that are working with you. Again, if you're working with a big influencer, and we're not talking about actual influencer marketing today, but if we were, I would talk about building out a co-branded landing page. A friend of mine did this years ago when he owned a shoe brand, and he actually put his site into a certain mode for this big brand. That was brilliant. They crushed that day when they did that. But you can actually now do that when you create these creator co-branded funnels. And I think that's a really interesting way of taking this creator content from TikTok Shop and then moving it over. Something else that we do at Social Commerce Club that I really want you guys to understand is we're creating landing pages that look just like TikTok Shop pages on DDoS. So we're testing running all of this content all over. Now, at the end of the day, you need to remember that incentives drive all of this. And so you want to make sure that you are incentivizing your creators to be able to make money on whatever content they make for you. And so making sure that there is some sort of tracking mechanism set up so that you can continue to incentivize them by sales that they make on other channels is really, really important. There's some good tools out there that do that. You can do that through Social Snowball. So make sure to go check them out. You can do that through Super Affiliate. And there is some tracking capabilities within Creator Commerce as well that you can use. So there's a lot of tools out there. GoAF Pro is another one of them. There's tons of tools that you can use to do this. And then you can also do the same thing on the Amazon side with affiliate links and sending people over. I'm going to end right there for today. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, I'm also going to take some questions and answers, and I'm going to stick around here to do that. I mean, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you share this with somebody. All right, let's do some live questions right now. Yes, Rywan, I've got a question.